Hello everyone, welcome to the weekly video from the Purple Penny. My name's Mark. I own and run the Purple Penny along with my wife Catherine. We've been closed for a week, so there was no video last week. We had a week off. It was a bit of a last minute trip taken in the last few days of last week. There was some work stuff that popped up and we ducked away for a few days, but we're back on board today, opening up on Wednesday. Just back in today, catching up on the mail and the bookkeeping and the phone messages and all that sort of stuff. So the Purple Penny is a small family owned and run coin business. We're in Mawson Lakes in South Australia. If you're wondering where Mawson Lakes is, it's about 15 minutes north of Adelaide. Adelaide being the capital of South Australia. And we buy and sell coins, banknotes and collectibles. We sell them through our shop here. We have a little shop with some glass cabinets and that sort of stuff. We also have a website, thepurplepenny.com. List up 50 or 60 new items a week over there as well. Right, I guess there's no news to talk about from last week because we weren't open. The week before was very busy. I do remember that. We ended up ducking over to Western Australia for a couple of days to drop some stuff off at someone with the Western Australia Museum. And catch up with another coin dealer over there. We're lucky enough to drop into the Perth Mint and have a look there, so we'll just be talking about that a bit today. I guess the big thing in the news is that there's a new release this Thursday, so we'll just pop that up there. So it's the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II, and the Mint is remembering the event with what they're calling the Wreath of Poppy $2 coin. It's a coloured $2 coin with a wreath of red poppies in the design. They're releasing a dealer exclusive RAM roll, so that's a head tail roll with the hologram sticker on it, which is $99.95. A C mint mark silver proof with a mintage of 10,000, release price of $90. And C mint mark aluminium bronze uncirculated coin in a folder or in a card, I'm not exactly sure. 100,000 of those, release price of that is $22.50. Should be an interesting day on Wednesday. If you're here in Adelaide, do watch our Facebook. Probably tomorrow and Wednesday we'll just have some announcements about how we're going to make those coins available this time. There is another release which is the last of the lunar coins that were released a few months ago. The $5 domed silver proof is going to be available on Thursday as well. 7,500 of those and $150 for that. There's also a gold coin, but we're not getting any of those. Right, I'll just say a quick hello to everyone who's watching here, and everyone looks like Peter. Hello Peter. Peter Andrews is watching. He's a well-respected numismatist in Australia, and it's good that Peter's here because my first news item of the day is Peter's coin magazine. Peter is the editor of Independent Coin News, and just a couple of days ago he released the October 2025 issue. Some really good articles in this issue, including a very comprehensive guide to the Australian 20-cent piece, a look at the different 2-cent reverses on the Australian bronze 2-cent, which was taken out of circulation in 1991. John Belcher, who's a well-known error collector here in Australia and sometimes author, has written an article in the magazine this month called The Not So Humble Blank Planchet, and I think the feature, the highlight of the magazine this month is the $2 market report, because Peter has some very insightful comments about that in the magazine this month. Well worth a read. Now, the best thing about the Independent Coin News, other than the fact that it's edited and mostly written by Peter, is it is free. It's an online coin magazine. You can get your copy from independentcoinnews.com. Peter also has a Facebook group. If you're on Facebook, just do a search for Independent Coin News and you can join up to that group and keep up with any announcements about that. Right, a few more hellos before we continue on. Hello Patrick, hello Adam, hello another Peter, hello Gwen, hello JJ, hello Ted, hello Chris, hello Ray, hello Wendy, There's Catherine saying hello. Hello Andrea. Hello Stuart. Hello George. And hi Graham. Thank you everyone for joining in today. Now when I do these videos, I try to have some news that have come up internationally. Usually it's about metal detecting because I like that, but we've got a couple of other things this week, plus a metal detecting news item, of course. In 2022, an antique dealer in Norway, in Oslo in Norway, was offered 30 ancient coins by a Tunisian gentleman. The antique dealer was a bit suspicious about the provenance of those coins. Norwegian police then arrested the Tunisian man and seized the coins. It's believed that the 30 coins that he was in possession of from a 200 kilo hoard that was looted from a shipwreck off the coast of Tunisia, and those coins do date back to the Second Carthaginian Roman War, or otherwise known as the Second Punic War, which is about 218 to 201 BC, so quite a significant find. Carthaginian coins are not that easy to find. The coins themselves have been returned to the Tunisian government by the Norwegian government. Unfortunately, the context of the coins is now lost because the archaeologists don't know exactly where they've come from, but the value of the coins is actually quite low because over the last few years the market has been flooded by coins of similar types that it is suspected that all of them have come from the same hoard that was looted off the coast of Tunisia. And I will be talking later about some Australian shipwreck coins and a similar story there, and just gives you some insight into the damage that looting can cause and how it affects, I guess, our knowledge of past events when people do treat these things as goods just for sale. So the next item in the news is the oldest coin minted in Saxony has been found by metal detectorists. Now Saxony is a state in southeastern, or I should say in eastern Germany. I've just popped up a map there. The red arrow is pointing to Saxony. It's actually pointing to about where this coin was found. It was found in a field in the northwestern suburbs of the capital of Saxony, which is Leipzig. And it's a 2-gram coin. It's made of more or less pure gold. And it's what's called a quarter stater. It's a Celtic coin. On one side there's a stylized head of perhaps a deer. You can perhaps make out some antlers and things there on the image at the top left. The other side has what's called a rainbow bowl, and I thought this was lovely. The rainbow bowl often appears in German coins of this era, and it's linked to the myth that gold can be found in a golden bowl at the end of rainbows. So that myth goes back to at least the 3rd century BC, and this coin was believed to have been minted in the 3rd century BC, and is now the oldest coin known to have been made in Saxony by some 250 years. The previous oldest coin was a coin that was minted by the Romans in Saxony in about 50 BC. So pretty amazing find by a metal detectorist there in a field in the northwestern suburbs of Leipzig, the oldest coin ever found that was made in Saxony. Next item on the news. No, I think that might be it for the news for today. Let me just double check that. Yep, that's it for the news for today. Right, now, as I said, we did duck over to Western Australia because we had to catch up with a coin dealer over there, and we also needed to drop off some things to the Western Australian Museum. It was a bit of a last minute thing, but we did take the time to drop into the Perth Mint, and the person that we met from the museum was at the Shipwrecks Museum in Fremantle, so we ducked in there for a look as well. So firstly, I thought I would just show you some pictures and videos from the Perth Mint, because for once we're in a mint that was actually making something, so it was an interesting exercise just watching the workers in the Perth Mint making what looked like gold ingots and then silver coins, and just having a look at the press. So we've got a really good picture of a press, and there it is there. So this press was making what appeared to be 1 ounce gold ingots. So the worker, as we were watching, brought over a tray of what looked like 1 ounce gold ingot blanks, and blew them off with pressurized air, and then was placing them one by one into this press, and a security shield would drop down in front of the press a button, and the thing would come down. So you can see there I have labelled sort of the parts of the die, which, you know, you've probably heard me talk about these things before, but it's always better when there's a picture. So up the top there we've got the hammer die. So in the case of this press, that die has a significant range of movement from the top down to the bottom there. The collar die, which is a disc around where this worker would place the blank, and then the anvil die, which is what the worker would place the blank upon. So you can see clearly the three parts, key parts of the coin press there. This particular press only struck the ingots once, so the worker would place the blank on the anvil die. You notice I'm not calling that the obverse, the reverse die, because I couldn't tell which was the obverse or the reverse die. Then press a button, a screen would come up, the hammer die would move down and press the blank, and then come back up again, and the screen would pop down, and the worker would, who was wearing white gloves by the way, would pick up the struck ingot, examine it, and put it in another tray, and then repeat the process. So quite fascinating watching this person use that. Next thing of interest was they did have a really good display on making dies themselves. So the dies are the metal tooling that goes into those presses that actually strike the coins or the ingots. So at the top left there is a sovereign die from King George the Fifth. The Perth Mint struck sovereigns as part, it was the Royal Mint at that time, struck sovereigns from 1899 to 1931 when Australia went off the gold standard. So they have that beautiful die there on display. At the top right there is a plaster. Plasters used to be used, and perhaps still are used, by coin designers to produce a large version of the coin design. They would actually produce that in plaster. The plaster is quite easy to carve and manipulate, and those plasters would then be either digitally or physically reduced. If they're going to be physically reduced, by something called a reducing lathe, and the reducing lathe would cut a 1-to-1 die, which could then be used to create master dies and production dies. At the bottom left there you can see a bunch of production dies, and probably some familiar designs. There's 1 ounce silver coins with the Queen Elizabeth's profile, emus, which are the palladium coins, kookaburras, which again are silver coins, so quite interesting things there. And at the bottom right there is a bunch of tools that coin designers would use to either manipulate the plaster blanks themselves, or for touching up the coin dies after they've been made. If you're wondering about touching them up, we did actually watch a technician in the production area cleaning quite vigorously some dies that were then placed into a coin press. So he looked like he was cleaning dies for 1 ounce silver coins. He was using some sort of solvent and rags to clean those dies off, I assume to remove any residual oil and grease. And of course, if they leave any oil or grease on those dies, then you get strike through coin errors. So the next, let's see if this actually works, this next one. So this is a video of a press in operation. So this person was striking 1 ounce silver coins, and you can just see the press there, and you'll probably notice that the press isn't striking each coin once, it is actually striking the coins 3 times. This is fairly normal for collector coins, for mints to strike the coin more than once. Production rates aren't necessarily the most important aspect of creating collector coins. Providing a coin that is in the best condition possible and fully struck up is probably more important than producing thousands of coins every hour. So a circulation coin will not be struck more than once, it will only be struck once, because of course circulation coins, the rate of production is one of the primary concerns for mints. So you can see this 1 ounce gold coin, despite the fact that gold is quite soft, is actually being struck 3 times by the operator. And if you're wondering the forces involved, we were behind secure glass, and this press was, I don't know, perhaps 6 or 7 meters away from us, but you could still feel the ground moving each time it struck a coin, each 3 times that it struck a coin. So that was the Perth Mint visit that we had. Perth Mint's an interesting place. The actual tour itself, I can't remember how much it cost. I don't know, $35 or $70 per person, something like that. You get to see a live coin pour, but the highlight for us was seeing the production area when we were in there. So if you do get a chance to go, please do go and have a look. You will learn a lot. Now, the next little thing I wanted to focus on here was some Shipwreck coins. Western Australia during the 16 and 1700s and the late 1500s was a path that ships from Europe followed on their way to mostly Indonesia, which at that point was a Dutch colony, the Dutch colony of Batavia, or the Spice Islands if you like. The Dutch East Indies Company was at one time the biggest company in the world. It had its own navy, it had its own army. In relative terms, it was a lot bigger than the biggest company in the world today. And navigators in the 1500s and 1600s and even the 1700s had to navigate east to west by dead reckoning. There was no good way of telling where a ship was east to west. And unfortunately, over the couple of hundred years that the Dutch East India Company was sending ships to Indonesia, a few of them ended up bumping into either Western Australia itself or the reefs off the coast of Western Australia. You probably know a few of those wrecks. If I name them off, the Batavia, the Gilt Dragon, the Zoitdorp, and the Rapid. The Batavia, the Zoitdorp were wrecked in the 1600s. I've got that wrong. The Batavia and the Gilt Dragon were wrecked in the 1600s. The Zoitdorp in the 1700s, and the Rapid, which was actually an American ship, was wrecked in about 1812. All 4 of those ships contain significant amounts of coins, and it's just interesting that archaeologists use those coins for a number of reasons. Say, for example, the Rapid, which was sunk in 1811 or 1812. When that wreck was discovered, there was no identifying evidence on the ship to prove that it was the Rapid. They knew that the ship had sunk in 1811 or 1812, so they used the coins that they found on the ship to help confirm that that was actually the Rapid itself. They looked at the dates on the coins. The last dated coin was the year before the Rapid shipwreck. They had a manifest of the cargo of that particular ship, and they did actually use those coins to determine that that was the particular wreck itself. The 3 main Dutch wrecks that were wrecked off the Western Australia, they contain coins of very different types. The Gilt Dragon contained mostly Spanish cobs, 8 reals, 4 reals, 2 reals. The Batavia contained mostly larger German and Dutch silver coins, so crown-sized silver coins, Douders and things like that, Taylors. Whereas the Zoitdorp contained mostly small change. It contained 1 stoiver and 2 stoiver coins, 4 stoiver coins, and then also duets, which are small bronze coins. So yeah, the cargo of the coins themselves on the ships was quite different, and if you have access to the manifest of the ships, you can identify it from those particular types of coins that the ships are carrying. This is an example of a clump of coins that I believe was found on the Batavia. It's called what's called concreted. It's surrounded by concretion, which is a build-up of hard material that happens with shipwrecked items, and a large part of the conservators' jobs is removing items from those concretions safely. Interesting thing. You can, from time to time, buy concretions of coins from auction sites in America, because a lot of the wrecks in America off the coast of the USA from the Spanish treasure fleets can be commercially exploited. They can't here in Australia. And many months ago, I put up a concretion of coins from the Admiral Gardner, which was a British ship that sunk in the English Channel in about 1804 or 1805. Next, right, so what we've got here is a 4 real Spanish coin, probably dates from 1640 or 1650, something like that. This is off of the wreck, the Gilt Dragon, and alongside of it there is a certificate from the Western Australian Museum. In Australia, any items taken from a shipwreck are the possession of the Commonwealth, and items from shipwrecks cannot be traded without permission of the federal government and the Western Australian Museum. So coins from Western Australian shipwrecks that are legally traded will need to have one of these certificates, which you can see on the left there. You might be wondering why that's the case. It's because in the 1960s and 70s, when the 4 major shipwrecks that contain huge hoards of coins were discovered, unscrupulous individuals were exploiting those shipwrecks. In one case, one of the gentlemen had a reputation for using dynamite to blow up the clumps of coins to make them easier to collect. To try to restrict that particular gentleman's activities, the Western Australian government passed legislation to take ownership of all items that were recovered from shipwrecks off the coast of Western Australia. They confiscated everything that he'd found, and after a lengthy legal battle, he actually was the courts in Western Australia found in his favour, and he was given all of his items back. But then Commonwealth legislation was passed in the late 1970s and is still in place today, so that all of these items cannot be traded without being certificated by the West Australian government, like this particular coin is, and then you actually need to apply for permission from the federal government to trade those particular items. And that is to prevent exploitation of those wrecks. And there's still a lot of this material floating around without certificates on it, because there was an amnesty period that the government provided where people could declare that they had these coins. You can, I believe, apply to have any shipwreck coin certificated by the Western Australian Museum. And if you're wondering how they know that it comes from a particular shipwreck, it's because they have very good records of the coins that were found from each ship, and they can, say for this particular coin here, they could look at the estimated date, and Mexican coins or Mexican colonial coins like this, you can estimate the date from the moneyer, and that's an initial that's on there. Each moneyer was a person who was responsible for the quality of the coins that came from that particular mint. And it's known when each moneyer was in operation, so you can come up with an estimated date from that. You can also tell what mint it's from by either a mint mark, and if the mint mark's not visible, you can look at the end of the crosses. The crosses on Mexican minted cobs have fleur-de-lis on the end of them, whereas other colonial mints such as Potosi and places like that have a different cross formation. So an archaeologist at the West Australian Museum can look at your particular coin, and then by the denomination and country of origin work out what wreck it probably belongs to, and then go and look at their data for the ships, for the coins from that particular wreck, and make a good guess about whether your coin comes from that wreck or not. There is also, a lot of this stuff was traded in the 70s and 80s, and it still has provenance with it, whether that be letters from dealers or certificates of authenticity that were issued by dealers, pre the West Australian Museum certification process. So yeah, it's an interesting field. We've never had one of these coins before. It's, I'd love to own one day, and I'll probably buy one off of another dealer just for the sake of having one. They are quite expensive. Coins from Australian shipwrecks are much more expensive than ones from wrecks found off the coast of Mexico or America, and I guess that's because the government does control the trade of them, and the majority of them are held by the government itself. Right, that's it. Thank you for allowing us to have a week off last week. If you have left a message on the phone, Catherine has worked through all the messages this morning. Good luck with the release on Thursday. If you are here in Adelaide, do watch our YouTube page, because not YouTube page, our Facebook page on tomorrow and Wednesday, because we'll just have some announcements about how we're handling this release. I hope everyone's had a good couple of weeks and is enjoying their collecting. As always, if you've got something you'd like me to talk about in these videos, please do send us a message or give us a call or come in and say hello and let me know. I'll do my best to talk about it. That's it. Happy collecting, everyone. Bye for now. Have a safe week, and we'll see you next time.